What's up, interweb? RhyQuinn here, and welcome to the GBA Season 4 Week 8 weekly recap. And back to normal this week. Joining me this week is Adam from TNA TV.
I'm back after my hiatus, and while I was gone, they had a pretty big trade go through, which we're going to talk about before we move into the matches. And that was between, the Winnipeg Aqua Jets and the Pittsburgh Piratas. So, let's see, who was it? It was Mammoth Swine and Crobat for Tornadus T. And who's Amungus?
Yeah.
What do you think of the trade?
I think it was kind of hilarious how at the start of the season everyone was talking about Hank's triple regenerator core, and he's now given away 2 out of 3 of them. But it's a very interesting pickup actually for Hank. I think he prefers just using Umbreon over the Amungus as a more defensive mon. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he can use Mamoswine and Crobat, because Mamoswine is a huge threat in its own right. Crobat, obviously incredibly quick and actually really, really good. Obviously not working for Tup, so hopefully, I say hopefully, unbiased analyst over here, let's see what Hank can do with his new mons. And for Tup, he's broken his team that was 4th gen and before. He's now got an Amungus and Tornadus, so I don't know if because the whole point of his team at the start of the season was he knows how to use all these mons because he was playing a lot in 4th gen and things like that. But with these new mons, I don't know if he knows how to use them properly. So we'll see what he can pull off with those things.
For me, it's interesting because we have one team who I think, for all intents and purposes, is eliminated from the playoff race, and then we have one who's in the playoff hunt making the trade. So that becomes an interesting dynamic right there. So I'm going to talk mostly about Hank because I'm pretty sure that Tup is eliminated from the playoff race. So,
yeah.
And with the new format for the GBA, you don't really keep your team at the end of the season. So it doesn't really make a terrible big difference for Tup. It's just really 2 games that he gets to use them for.
Mm-hmm.
But for Hank, potentially it could carry him through. And I really think Mamoswine was a very good pickup in that trade for him, because it really pressures the 2 people who seem to be moving forward for the playoffs, and that's Miguel and Mulvone. That pressures both of them really well. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out for him. But enough about that. We'll move on to the actual matches that you guys are here for, the actual recap. We'll start with the Milwaukee Sawsbucks versus the San Francisco Giants. And the Giants got a 3-0 victory, keeping them in the playoff hunt right behind the person that we were just talking about. This was kind of another one of those versions of the straightforward battle. There was a play where Steve made a little bit of an over-prediction, and I specifically remember him getting very pissed off in his video about it because people were going to point it out. And it really wasn't that bad of a play. I mean, he predicted Geo to save, I believe at that point, it was Ditto. So he predicted him to switch out. He didn't, and he got punished for that fact. So it was pretty straightforward battle. Mesprit actually didn't even see the field on this battle. What do you got for it?
I was pretty surprised to see Steve bring Muck, simply because Geo has quite a few things that can actually deal with Muck relatively well. Surprising in my book, but I'm sure he had his reasons. And yeah, that over prediction with Steve going for the HP Fire, predicting this was the thing that really cost him, as the Ditto that was Masters Lando T was able to go for the U-turn and take out the Mega Gardevoir, which was huge for Geo, because that was possibly the biggest threat on Steve's team, able to take that down, which was huge play for him. And Goodra and Gyarados really pulling through for Geo this week. Goodra getting 2 kills and not dying, and Gyarados getting 3 kills and 1 death. And it was down to its own Life Orb recoil. So it was, Gyarados and Goodra really pulling through for Geo this week. But as you said, relatively straightforward match. Maybe a couple of different plays here and there could have seen the result go the other way, but Very solid victory for gym leader Gio and the San Francisco Giants. And with that said, we're going to move on to the next match from this week, and that is the Long Island Reggie Rockies and their coach Nips taking on the Cincinnati Loudreds and their coach Malvo19, and the Cincinnati Loudreds continuing in their winning ways, picking up a 3-0 victory over the Reggie Rockies. And this match, Nips and the Reggie Rockies just did not have an answer for a specially defensive Gliscor. He brought HP Ice Cobalion, he brought HP Ice Jirachi, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
And neither of them, got the opportunity to actually take down Gliscor. They just couldn't break through it at all. He did bring, I believe it was HP Fire Roserade, or HP Fire Alakazam, one of the two, which took out Fortress. So all kinds of hidden powers going in this match. There was also an HP Grass Mega Manectric as well. But after Quagsire had been poisoned and taken a little bit of damage, it was the Weavile show. Weavile just absolutely destroyed Nips' team, other than Cobalion, who went down relatively early. After that, Weavile just came in and wrecked shop, picking up 4 kills and not dying, and proving once again how Malvone just really knows how to use Weavile, really using it effectively in this match, just preserving it for when it needed to come in and just clean up at the end of the game with Ice Shard. It's all it needed to do. So yeah, what do you think about this one?
You're just taking all my points, aren't you? The only thing I can really add to that is I do appreciate the Cotton Guard Mega Altaria set that Nips brought. It just was unfortunate that Toxic Gliscor was a thing, and Malvone played that extremely well to get himself out of what potentially could have been a very dangerous situation for him with that Cotton Guard. It was actually kind of sad to see how truly little damage an HP Ice from Cobalion did to that Gliscor, which was, I think, turn 1. It did, I don't know, maybe like 40%, and that's a 4-time super effective move. That's craziness. But yeah, it was just, like you said, became basically the Weevil show there at the end, and it picked him up a 3-0 victory, and we'll move on from there to the Detroit Steel Wings versus the New Orleans Pelipers. This was a close one. It was a 2-0 victory for the Pelipers. This got extremely close thanks to a choice-banded Rhyperior Stone Edge crit onto not Mega Evolved regular Venusaur. Oddly enough, the Venusaur actually could have taken it, which is surprising because regular Venusaur I don't really think of that as that bulky personally. But I think Nips brought. Or Nips. I think Crimson. Sorry, we were just talking about Nips. Crimson brought some good stuff. He was trapping with Gothitelle and got some Calm Minds, which could have been very dangerous had John not brought the Roar on Empoleon. But at the end of it all, it really just came down to Moxie Crocodile little mini sweep at the end, and that's probably pretty much the story of that game. What do you think?
I think it was, first off, Rhyperior got a kill. Yes! It may have been a crit. Not the point. Rhyperior got a kill, and that's what matters. And it was against a Venusaur, and that's glorious. But that aside, I think it was really cool to see Sigilyph coming in clutch once again for John, his free agent pick, becoming one of his most crucial team members, really saving him once again. And he said, it's his panic button. He says it in his videos. It's, if something goes wrong, he brings in Sigilyph, and Mega Venusaur went down to a Stone Edge crit from Rhyperior. What does he do? He goes into Sigilyph and he saves it. It has Energy Ball, it has great coverage to deal with Crimson's team, and it had exactly what it needed. It's scared out the Rhyperior, and it picked up 2 kills and didn't die in this match. Once again, it's really proving its worth, and a great free agent pick. But you pretty much covered everything. Crimson brought very good stuff. John, had some unfortunate hacks, as we said, with the Stone Edge crit, but he was able to pull it back with Sigilyph and Crocodile getting a mini sweep at the end. And yeah, it was a solid performance from Crimson, but in the end, John was able to pull through despite the hacks going against him. So a 2-0 victory for the Pelipers over the Detroit Steel Wings. And we're going to move on to the next match, which is the St. Louis Rampardos and A-Drive taking on the Utah Jasmine and Cooper. And the St. Louis Rampardos picking up a 3-0 victory over the Jasmine this week. And in this match, this was actually some really innovative sets on Dan's side. An Assault Vest HP Poison Rotom Wash for Whimsicott, which actually worked, which is really annoying because I brought HP Poison and it didn't work. I'm really sorry about that. I'm really mad that Dan got it to work and I didn't. But anyway, there's some very, very innovative sets, which is really cool to see. Mew picking up 3 kills this week and no deaths, which is great for Dan. As I said, that HP Poison Rotom Wash really, really pulled through for him, which was great to see. And in this match, I feel like there was a little bit of odd planning on Cooper's part, bringing things like Bright Powder, Togekiss, but yeah, there was a lot of crits as well with Mega Sableye knockoff. I believe it may have been 3 or 4 crits from knockoff. Some of them obviously did not matter, but there was a couple. One on, even though the match had already been pretty much sealed at that point, there was one at the very end on Dusknoir to seal him the victory. I believe it could have taken 1, but the crit just, OHKO'd him.
Right.
And Mega Charizard X not really doing anything, just came in and died, as is the story from this season for Cooper. But yeah, I think in this one the matchup was just in Dan's favor. He prepared very well, and Cooper, I feel like, didn't really plan too well this week. So a solid performance from Dan, really.
I can't add too terribly much. The Rotom Wash with HP Poison, I'm going to jump back to that again, especially with the Assault Vest, made it not only a very good mon to bring in against Nidoking, but since Whimsicott's actually a trouble for the Chansey Mega Sableye core, being able to get that out of the way just by a surprise HP Poison was, I think, really, really good planning. And then the use of Mew makes me think of back, I believe it was week 1, where you used the Choice Scarf Mew that had a bunch of cool little tricks on it, and I love the use of Mew that way, where it's basically, okay, what is the main thing that my opponent's weak to? Let me add that to Mew. Okay, what's a good coverage move for my opponent? Let me add that to Mew. Okay, let me add momentum move, and then some utility move like knockoff. And that's a really, really good use of Mew. And then last but not least, I think we're going to see a whole bunch more rise of the Bright Powders coming through just to screw with people. It's a terrible trend to start, Cooper. You started a terrible thing. We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't. But with that, we'll move to the next battle, which is the Winnipeg Aquajets versus the Pittsburgh Piratas. And Hank pulling away with a 2-0 victory to keep him a little bit ahead of Geo in the wild card race over there, which we'll get to in a little bit. This was kind of a straightforward battle that just kind of ended with lots and lots of Mega Pinsir kills. It went 4 kills and 0 deaths. There was a couple of questionable plays by Tup, but it's easy to say that in hindsight, because I can look at the battle and be like, oh, you shouldn't have done that right there, because now you're going to lose. But it's really hard to see that in the middle of the battle. I think that, what was it? One of the things that spelled the doom for him was letting the momentum happen with Tornadus T, just kind of being able to switch in and cause a lot of trouble, being able to get the momentum and just putting Tup on the back heels. But once Mega Pinsir gets to do his thing, it's pretty much curtains call. So what do you think?
Yeah, not much to add again on this one. As you said, relatively straightforward on this one. Again, for those of you that are slightly confused, the trade did happen between these two teams, but the effect of it doesn't actually take place till after this match, so Hank was still able to use his Tornadus Therian and Amoonguss if he so choosed English, and the Piratas were still able to use Mamoswine and Crobat if they wanted to as well. But after next week, then the teams will change.
Right.
But in this match, yeah, it was, as you said, relatively straightforward. A couple of questionable plays from Tup, but as you said, once Mega Pinsir starts Mega Pinsering, there's not much that can stop it, But Hank got him played very well to get himself into a position where Mega Pinsir was able to come in and start Mega Pinsering all over the place. Can that be a new phrase? Have I just coined a new phrase? Mega Pinsering?
I mean, I think you're making that phrase is pretty safely innovative. So
it is very safely innovative. Yeah, I don't really have too much else to add for this match. That's a solid 2-0 victory for the Winnipeg Aquajets, keeping their playoff dreams alive. And then we're going to move on to the final match from this week, which is the Real Maril and Mega Mogwai taking on the New York Mankeys and Shady Penguin. And the Real Maril picking up a 2-0 victory over the Mankeys this week. And I thought it was really, really interesting to see Shady Penguin this week bringing Galvantula, bringing the sticky web against Miguel. And you can really see on Miguel's side of the battle, he's really thrown. He's really taken aback by the fact he's seen Galvantula. He changes all his plans from his pre-game plan. He had to change everything going into this match simply by seeing Galvantula on the team preview. He just had to completely throw everything out the window and start fresh, which was, I think it's a testament to Miguel's battling ability. The fact that he already has a plan, he gets thrown off it, but he still comes back with a new one straight away, and he can still, maneuver around a field and still has that great vision of the end game that he always does. And in this one, Honchkrow was a huge threat for Miguel, but he was able to take it down. He managed to, pressure Shady enough to the point where he didn't have many opportunities to try and get in Galvantula with the sticky web. But Shady played fantastically well in this match, making some really great switches, some great plays. But in the end, Miguel was just able to, finish off with Hydragon and Mega Lopunny. Neither of them dying at the end of the match. So. Yeah, I'm sure you probably have a lot more to say about this one than I do. So
well, there was one really big piece of hacks that kind of put Shady really at a disadvantage, and that was the crit high jump kick from Mega Lopunny onto the fully defensive Melodic. That really changed the dynamic of the game. Maybe in the end it might not have mattered, depending on, I don't quite remember what Shady was going for move-wise there, but that was pretty big, because there was not a lot on Miguel's team that could really deal with Melodic. Especially, I believe he had Mirror Coat Melodic, so that Thunderous could have potentially not have been a happy camper if he went for an electric move. But as you were saying, the sticky webs came in clutch to keep it at least close, to keep Victini's speed down and to keep Mega Lopunny's speed down, so that things like Superior could potentially outspeed them and sweep. But again, also good planning back on Miguel's side for having the Prankster T-Wave on Thunderous, just to make sure that if Superior tries to get frisky like that he can at least slow it down and kill it with something else. So it was a very, very good battle. I wish that crit high jump kick didn't happen, because it might have been different. I'm not saying that Shady would have won, but it definitely would have been a very different battle. And it was a really, really good battle to watch. I think this was probably one of the most anticipated battles of this week, and it very much lived up to it. It was really fun to watch. I think we'll move on to, is it League Leaders next? Is that what we do?
Normally is the funnily pronounced League Leaders.
League Leaders.
Yeah. So both 1 and 2 this week, picking up 4 kills and no deaths. So still in first place, we have Weavile, 17 kills, 2 deaths, and a plus 15 differential. My goodness. There's not much more we can say about Weavile, but my goodness, still in number 1.
That's insane.
Absolutely.
My excitement for Weevil right there came out. And then followed by him at the number 2 spot is Mega Pinsir, who also does not have the same kills. Has 16 kills and 3 deaths for this season, which is also very impressive considering the fact that, Hank's record is actually worse than Mulvone. So for Mega Pinsir to have that differential on a worse record is also pretty impressive.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And in third place, we have Mega Gardevoir with 13 kills and 5 deaths and a plus 8 differential. And Mega Gardevoir getting 1 kill, 1 death this week. So keeping the same differential, but getting that 1 more kill to keep it within touching distance of Mega Pinsir and Weavile. So we'll see what changes in the coming weeks, but if Morvone continues to use Weavile like he has, I don't see anything changing for a while. But then again, you have things like Mega Pinsir. Who knows what can happen with that thing, because once it starts Mega Pinsiring, not much can stop it.
Now, from now on, we're not even going to really explain what happened in the battle. It's just going to be Mega Pinsering.
Yep.
So for the remaining 4 to 10, I will go through. We have Mega Lopunny with 9 kills, 1 death, followed by another Real Morel member, Dregan, with 9 kills, 2 deaths. At number 6, we have Melodic at 8 kills, 7 deaths. At number 7, we have Crocodile at 8 kills, 2 deaths. Number 8 is Mega Sableye, 8 kills, 3 deaths. And at number 9, we have Goodra at 7 kills, 7 deaths. That's pretty impressive. And at number 10, we have Aggron, still hanging around, at 7 kills, 2 deaths. Got any fun, quirky things to say about the remaining 4 to 10?
Not particularly, other than I think it's still, I know we've said this before, but it's still really cool to see things like Milotic, Mega Sableye, Goodra making a bit of a charge this week, and Aggron's still up there, which is really cool to see. But yeah, I don't think there's much more we can add from what we've already said in other weeks. And if you don't know what we said in other weeks, go back and watch the videos.
I just want to say this real fast. There is still not a fast electric in the top 10.
Yeah.
The first fast electric is number 16, Raikou.
Mm-hmm.
This is bull. This is bull.
And then after that, there isn't one for like ever. Jolteon is 31st. Like, that's
close
it.
enough.
That's all we got. Just Raikou in 16th and Jolteon in 31st. When you compare that to other seasons in GBA, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that said, now we're going to move on to the conference breakdown and see how all of this has affected it. So, take it away for the Sinnoh Conference Diamond Division.
Oh, this is the big one. I get the big one. Excellent. You have the Utah Jasmine sitting at number 1 right now on differential. Cooper has 4 wins, 4 losses, and a +8 differential, followed very, very closely by John of the New Orleans Pelicans. They are 4-4 also with a +5 differential. And then we have Crimson all the way at the bottom, 1-7 at -18, which, like I said, mathematically he's eliminated from the playoffs, but he can at least still play for pride points and to potentially spoil other people's playoff runs. It's going to be a very epic battle next week, which again I keep skipping forward to the next segment. But John plays Cooper next week, and that will almost be the deciding factor for who gets into the playoffs, which is just crazy to think that only John or well, I guess there's still a chance for the wild card at this point. But I'll let you talk about that when we talk about the Pro Division. But that could potentially lock up only one of them to get into the playoffs, and that's crazy. But why don't you talk about the Pro Division, unless you have a little bit more to talk about for the Diamond Division?
I don't particularly have anything else to say about that, but I will kind of link back to it with what I'm going to say for the Pearl Division. So in the Pearl Division, we now have, up at the top, we have the St. Louis Rampardos, 7 wins, 1 loss, and a +15 differential, which I'm pretty sure guarantees them a spot in the playoffs, considering that Shady lost this week. He's with 5 wins, 3 losses, and a +7 differential. And down in third, we have the Pittsburgh Red Stars Northbound top with 1 win, 7 losses, unless you're Mighty Mammoth One, in which case it's 7 kills, with a -23 differential. Yeah, this match next week between Cooper and John is going to be insane, because, as you said, it may be the deciding factor for who gets the automatic one. But in terms of the wild card, if Shady wins his next match, he may very well lock up the wildcard spot for that conference, which puts an even greater pressure on Cooper and John, as only one of them may actually make it into the playoffs. So it's in Shady's hands right now. It's up to him. If he can win a match, then he's guaranteed that playoff spot too, and then we'll see both Dan and Shady making it to playoffs. And they've faced twice this season, and they've been fantastic matches. If they play again, then we're going to see hopefully another great match if Shady does make it in next week. but it's going to be very, very close to see, and a very interesting division, to say the least. So we're going to head over to the Hoenn Conference, Ruby Division, unless you have anything else to say.
No, I don't. I'll talk about the Ruby division. We have the Cincinnati Loudreds at 7-1 and a +14 differential, followed by the Winnipeg Aquajets at 5-3 with a +3 differential, and then we have the Long Island Red Rockies bringing up the back at 1-7 and a -17 differential. This is another one where it's actually, although the Loudreds have locked up, I believe, even if they lose twice, they would be tied with Hank if he won twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess technically they might not have their one spot locked up yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a pretty good position to stay in the playoff hunt at least. But the Aquajets will be hailed by Gio, which you'll talk about him in a little bit, and so that he needs to keep winning in order to keep his playoff berth alive. And with that, unless you have something to add, we'll move to the Sapphire division.
Yeah, not particularly. In the Sapphire division, we have the Real Maril with 7 wins, 1 loss, and a +26 differential. Insane differential from the Maril. Then we have the San Francisco Giants in second with 4 wins, 4 losses, and a -7 differential. And then the Milwaukee Sourcebucks picking up the rear with 2 wins, 6 losses, and a -14 differential. So the Giants and the Aquajets really fighting for the wildcard spot. And as you said, the Loudreds and the Real Maril really looking like the front runners for the automatic playoff positions. I believe that the Real Maril actually do have their guaranteed spot now.
They do.
In the Sapphire division. So Gio's just playing for that wildcard one, and he has to kind of bank on Hank losing his last 2 matches for Gio to stand a chance, really. But it all changes this week. If Gio picks up a win in his next match and Hank loses, they're tied on wins and losses, and Hank is going to be probably ahead by differential unless he loses 6-0 and Gio wins 6-0. Obviously a 12 differential would sway that slightly, but Hank is ahead on differential right now, so he does have a slight advantage with that, but it's going to be right down to the wire, which is going to be really, really great to see. And let's not forget as well, if the Loudreds do lose their last 2 matches, then especially if they lose big as well, and Hank can win his last 2 matches kind of big too, then maybe he can get the automatic spot in the playoff, and Mulvern will have to try and settle for the wildcard spot. I do believe though that even if Hank does take that automatic spot, I don't think there's anything Gio can do to get the wildcard spot if Hank does win his last 2 matches, as Mulvern will take the wildcard spot.
Yeah.
So Mulvern is guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, whether it be the automatic one or the wildcard. He's got one of them, so that doesn't really matter too much for him. But yeah, it's going to come down to the wire, I think, between Hank and Gio as to who gets that wildcard spot, which is going to be so interesting. We got in both conferences, it's still so close to determine who's going to get into the playoffs, which is going to be so exciting for these last couple of 2 weeks. And speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what matches you can expect next week. Week number 9, the penultimate week of regular play in the GBA Season 4. So the first match you can expect is the Cincinnati Loudreds to be taking on the New York Mankeys. Who do you have in this match?
This is a difficult one because there's a bunch of mons that Shady has that does a lot of damage to the Loudreds teams, but there's a lot of mons that the Loudreds have that check a lot of good threats that Shady have. So it's actually a very, very balanced on paper battle. You have Talonflame versus Mega Scizor, but Mega Scizor checks Weevil. Talonflame also checks Conkeldurr, who checks Weevil, but then you have Melodic, who doesn't care about Talonflame. It's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of chess match for the planning, and really it's whoever preps better is going to win this one straight out. So for me, I think Shady knows. I think Shady knows that if he wins this, he locks up the playoff spot, and I think he comes prepped, hard, prepared, and ready to go. And I think he takes this. I think he only squeaks by, though. I think he makes maybe a 2-0, maybe 1-0, squeaks by, but I think Shady takes it. What about you?
This one's very tough to call for me, as I feel like Shady has been really impressive this season with his innovation and bringing some different sets, things that really worked for him, and I don't think the same can be particularly said for the Loudreds. Although he has brought a couple of different things, it's generally been sort of similar stuff throughout the season. Obviously to great effect, not taking anything away from him at all. But I just feel like in this one, if Shady can be a little bit innovative, a little bit different, a little bit creative with his mons, as you said, there's so many pieces that match up well against the other one. If he can somehow find the ways to deal with the mons that deal with his mons, then I feel like he can just come up with a slightly different thing that might throw Morvone a little bit, and maybe he can walk away with the victory. It's tough to say though, because Morvone's been playing so well this season, and a lot of his matches, we've actually commented on this before we started recording, was just that a lot of his matches this season have just been very straightforward matches. It's just been, and I think that's just down to Morvone just playing a straightforward game. He knows what he wants to do. He knows the end goal, and he goes and does it. No funny business. It's very tough to call this one, but I think I'm going to go with the Loudreds on this one. I think that Weavar's going to pull through once again. It can stop things like Superior sweeping with a little bit of pride damage. Ice Shard can just stop that thing. I just feel like Weavile is going to be his key into beating the Mankeys for the next week. I think. I don't know though. It's very close. I'm probably going to regret that, but I'm going to say the Loudreds are going to pick up the win on this one. Maybe.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Maybe. Fair enough. The next battle that we have is the Long Island Red Rockies versus the Winnipeg Aquajets. What do you think?
Oof. This is a tough one. This is a rematch from Week 4. And in Week 4, the Red Rockies actually won this one. But I think in this one it's going to be a different result, and I think the Aquajets are going to come through and pick up the win on this one. The last match with them in Week 4 was actually decided by a full paralysis, I believe it was. And if that doesn't happen again, I think that Hank is going to have the team for it to take on Nips this time, and I think he's going to be coming out really looking to solidify his place in the playoffs, and he knows he needs to win in his last couple of matches. So I think Hank and the Aquajets are going to take this match against the Red Rockies.
So I'm nervous to say Hank, because this is actually the exact same scenario that he was in when he first played Nips, which was he just came off I think 6-0 thrashing from Cooper, and I said those exact words. I think he's going to try to cement himself as a premier battler in this league, and that he's good and he knows what he's going to be doing, and he came out and lost again. So I'm hesitant on saying Hank. Now, I still do believe that Hank is going to win, but I think that it's going to be a lot harder for him to win than he thinks it's going to be, especially now that he has the 2 new teammates, which means that Amogus is gone, which means how are you going to sit there and try to clear Smog the Snorlax for an hour? Now he's got to figure out a different way to deal with that. Maybe, I don't know. I'll say Hank wins on merit alone. I know that he is definitely going to be playing because he's in control of his destiny to get into playoffs. I just think this is a really big watch out game for me, because I can see this not going his way. But I say Hank wins probably about 2-0. I think I normally go 2-0. 2-0. It'll be a hard fought battle, but 2-0.
Yeah, fair enough. The next match you can expect is the Milwaukee Sourcebucks and Magnitude are going to be taking on the Real Marill and Mega Mogwai. Who do you have in this one?
So, let's see. They battled once already, and I put my money on Steve to show up to upset somebody, because that's Steve's playstyle. Sometimes he gets battles that he shouldn't be getting, and he gets losses that he shouldn't be getting, but generally he evens himself out. I think that Miguel is going to just be too hungry to just go full out and have the highest differential ever in the history of the GBA. And I think that he comes out to try and destroy Steve, and I think that probably kind of happens. I say 4-0 for this in Miguel's favor. What about you?
See, I'm tempted to say the opposite. I'm tempted to say that Miguel might relax a little bit. Now that he's got his playoff spot, he may relax a little bit. It's unlikely, knowing Miguel, it's unlikely, but you never know. And I think Steve is still hungry to try and get as many wins as possible. And maybe that might tip his favor for the Swordsbucks. I'm not sure. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to say the Swordsbucks take this one. I think, yeah, Miguel's going to relax a little bit too much. And Steve's going to come out hungry, and Steve's going to upset him. It'll be a close victory. It'll be probably a 1-0, 2-0, maybe. But I think the Swordsbucks are going to take this match.
So here's the thing about letting off the gas. I don't think it's going to happen because there's only one overall 1 seed for the conference, and since there's a 7-1 team tied with him, he can't really relax because he needs to continue winning so that he can have the better differential and record to be number 1 overall and get that bye. So that's why I still think that Miguel's just going to come out and just wreck face. But we'll move on. We'll move on to the San Francisco Giants versus the Detroit Steel Wings. Who do you have for this?
I feel like in this one, this is actually the first time these two teams have played, and I feel like in this one that Gio is going to take the match against Crimson. Gio is so hungry to try and maintain his playoff place. He has to win his last 2 games, and I feel like he can. Although you know, I was very happy with Crimson this week because RhyQuinn got a kill. I don't think it's going to be enough to save him against Gio, especially not RhyQuinn because Gio has rain, and you know RhyQuinn doesn't like rain.
Right.
But I do think that Gio's team building has been very, very solid throughout this season. And I feel like he can bring a solid matchup against Crimson. He can potentially bring the rain in this one. He can not bring the rain. I don't think it's particularly going to matter. I think he can build a solid team against Crimson either way. And I think Gio's just going to be very hungry to come out for the win, and he's actually going to get it. I'm going to say a kind of middling win here. I think it's probably going to be like a 3-0, maybe, for the Giants. That's what I think.
Well, the big thing that Gio's going to need to watch out for is a Feraligatr in the rain and a Jolteon in the rain. But I think that Gio can play around that. I think Gio, I'm going to go with this revolutionary 2-0 win that I keep saying for everybody, pretty much. But I think that, like you said, he comes out hungry enough because he knows that in order to even have a shot of making the playoffs, he has to keep winning and hoping for Hank to stumble. So he's going to put everything he has into these last 2 battles to make sure that if that opportunity presents itself, he's going to be ready for it. So I have to agree, 2 or 3-0 victory for Gio. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
Fair enough. And then the next match we have, probably the marquee match of Week 9 in the GBA. We have the New Orleans Pelipers are taking on the Utah Jasmine. Now, who do you have in this one?
Oh God, this is literally the biggest match I think of the entire season, given the stakes and the record and oh God. So they've already battled once, and that was in Week 4. Actually, I think Week 9 is just a repeat of Week 4. No, it's not. Anyway, it's not. They battled once before, and I think Cooper learned a lot from that. I don't see John bringing the same team because it's too hard to trick Cooper with the same old tricks. Again, I think that John has enough offensive power that is going to take Cooper out of any kind of defensive role that he can potentially play, which makes Cooper have to play more offensively, which he just doesn't have the correct stuff to play more offensively, especially against a team like John's. So I think John's team just pressures him so much to have to play out of his general comfort level that I still see John winning. This will be a really, really tough battle. I'm going to go with a 1-0 for John, and that's being generous because I don't really know because there's just so much stakes. Oh God, but 1-0 for the Pelipers. That's what I'm going to go with. What about you?
I don't know. It's so difficult to make a choice between these two. The stakes are so high. Both really good battlers, and they both are so hungry for the playoffs. It's going to be such a close match. I think I'm going to have to go with Jasmine. I think. I feel like, as you've said in previous weeks, it's very hard to beat someone twice in the same season.
Yeah.
And John won before. He's going to have to bring something completely different to beat Cooper again. As you said, it's very hard to beat Cooper twice with the same tricks. But Cooper, I feel like he can bring something pretty different to this match that John may not have seen from the other match that they played. He can still bring something different too. And who knows, we might see more bright powders. But I'm even going back on the decision I just made. I said Jasmine, and now I don't know anymore. But it's so close between these two. Okay, I'm gonna say that Jasmine are gonna win 1-0. I don't have a reason. Yeah, Jasmine are gonna win.
Fair enough.
That's all I got. I don't know.
I feel like it's a very balanced battle that's just going to be really difficult to predict. Yeah, I don't blame you. And with that, we'll go to the last battle of Week 9, and that is the Pittsburgh Pirate Tatas versus the St. Louis Rampardos. Who do you have for that?
I feel like in this one, this is possibly one of the easier matches to call this week. I feel like the St. Louis Rampardos are going to take the match against the Piratas in this one. I think the Rampardos have been showcasing their talent all season. I don't see that letting up now. Dan's been prepping very well for every week, and Tup unfortunately only has the one win from the season so far. I just don't see that momentum changing at all going into this match, and I think Dan's just going to pick up another win.
This will be the new look Tup team, so we'll see how that pans out. I'm going to put this one, like I said on they battled Week 5. Like I said on Week 5, I'm going to put this one on upset potential alert because I feel like there's a decent number of things that Tup has that actually could give Dan problems. However, that being said, as you said, Dan has been planning and prepping extremely well week in, week out. So I'm going to have to go with Dan, but I personally wouldn't be surprised to see Tup potentially pull his out if he comes with the correct pieces. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all
I think that's fair enough. I mean, Azumarill can put in a shift against Chansey Mega Sableye with knockoff and things like that. And obviously Plant Rough against Mega Sableye. Anyway, with that said, that is going to wrap up Week 8 weekly recap here on the GBA channel. Stay tuned for more videos on the GBA channel. We've got all sorts of content coming up very soon. And thank you for watching / listening. I'm just going to say it the once this week. And I've been RhyQuinn. He's been Adam. And you've been awesome. Bye-bye.
You're beautiful.